evening, everybody. My name is Bill Carlos. I'm the chairman of the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee. It's a committee of the town board, and I want to welcome all of you here to participate in this, and please participate as much as you want. We've talked about this several times at the board level and at the committee level. This is your town. You pay the taxes here. We're asking you to tell us what you would like to see for the town over the next 10 years. Don't limit yourself. This is your chance to tell the people what you think the direction we should go in. When we're done with the comprehensive plan, it gets submitted to the town board, it gets approved. And the next thing then is the zoning laws are addressed to reflect the changes from the comprehensive plan. And the other thing I found out, which I found very interesting, is once we have our comprehensive plan in place, should an outside agency like the county or the state come in and want to do work in our town, they have to take that plan into consideration. So this is pretty important stuff we're doing. And I want to thank every one of you for coming here. I want to pre-thank you all for your comments. I'm going to turn over now to Mike Welty. Mike Welty is the Director of Development for the town of Poughkeepsie, and he's going to help run this tonight. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bill, and welcome everybody. Glad you could join us tonight. If you could go to the next slide, I just wanted to spend a moment telling you who the committee is. As Bill mentioned, the committee was created by the town board, and these are all residents of the town, 3 of whom are members of the town board. In addition to Bill, we have Ann Shershin and Jeff Renahan on the committee. We have the current chairman of the planning board, Carl Whitehead, former chairman of the ZBA, James Challey, Yvonne Lawby, who's from the Historic Preservation Commission, Mary Beth Rubenstein, Dan Salvatore, and David Silver, all residents of the town. And these folks are volunteers and have been spending a great deal of time on this project over the last many months. Working with me in the staff level is Kristen Taylor. She's one of our planners. And we have our consultants, Nelson, Pope, and Voorhees, and the MUD workshop that are going to be taking us through the presentation and the discussion tonight. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Adriana from Nelson, Pope, and Voorhees.
Hi, everybody. So I'm just going to highlight where we're at in this process. For those of you who joined us at the last workshop meeting, this should look familiar to you. We have had 2 public workshops. This is our 2nd public workshop. The comprehensive plan process involves establishing a comprehensive plan review committee, initial stakeholder and public input, review of the old 2007 plan. We developed a community survey and got a good deal of feedback on that, which was very interesting and helped us to write our existing conditions analysis, which is up on the website. And through that, we were able to work with the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee to determine issues and opportunities. And so now, as we're working through those issues, opportunities, and really developing the recommendations of the plan, we are at our 2nd public workshop out of 3 proposed public workshops. So we'll be focusing today on placemaking and design and redevelopment. And that will all help us to prepare the comprehensive plan, which is that 8th step. So thank you all for joining us today. And I'm going to hand it over to Sachi, who's going to walk us through this very interesting design workshop today.
Thank you, Bill, Mike, and Adriana, and a very warm welcome to all of you who were able to make it here today. Thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to an exciting discussion. So I'll start with an overview of what we've heard from all of you so far regarding future development in the town of Poughkeepsie, and then we'll dive into some best practices on placemaking that could potentially become principles that guide future development in the town. And then we'll walk you through a quick overview of the two sites, including the Duchess Center, which is located at Duchess Turnpike or Route 44, and South Hills Mall, which is located on Route 9. After learning a little bit more about each site, we'll take a brief pause and invite you to provide your feedback through a series of multiple choice questions, and as well as a discussion session where you'll be able to provide more feedback. We'll end with brief announcements on next steps and where you can go if you still feel like there's more input you would like to share. During the entire presentation and workshop, you'll have the ability to use the chat function and we will be monitoring it regularly. If you would like to use the chat function, please do make sure that you are sending messages to all panelists and attendees and are not accidentally in a private conversation with another attendee. That way we will be able to record all your comments. So this slide here shows the locations of mixed-use developments from 2007 comprehensive plan and the most recent update from the current comprehensive plan. What we've heard is that there is a real strong interest in redeveloping or revitalizing these places that have previously been developed. And while the town has a lot of commercial and industrial land, some of it is thriving, but other areas are not doing as well as they were once doing. So a strong desire that we heard from everyone was that new development, as much as possible, should focus on these areas and would greatly benefit from, on the areas that would benefit from a redevelopment effort. And in addition, I'd like to point out that as the town has a sustainability as a core value, infill development or redevelopment of an existing site rather than a greenfield is far more sustainable and responsible, and these sites can incorporate the town's needs, including some of the housing needs. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the two areas, Duchess Center right here and South Hills Mall. But this does not imply that these are the only places that can accommodate redevelopment. These were areas that we selected because that were selected because most people are familiar with them. And the idea is really that today we'll discuss how we can demonstrate and illustrate through the help of these sites best practices and how they might be incorporated to guide the future development in the town. So I'll walk you through some of the placemaking principles or best practices that can make for inviting and successful places first. This slide shows, talks about walkability. This is great and a highly desired goal that contributes to how welcoming and vibrant a place feels. But let's take a closer look at what actually goes into making a place walkable. Safety is, can be achieved in a number of ways, but I think that the one that is most permanent in the context of this town is traffic safety. And using methods that allow for traffic calming, like wide street walks, bump outs at the intersections, proper signage, and balancing the proportion of sidewalks versus the space that is dedicated for car movement becomes really important. In addition to traffic safety, things like transparency on the ground floor level, dedicated outdoor space, and good landscaping design also makes for a more inviting environment. And this is especially important given the current social distancing needs and a potential future that is going to be emerging out of this trend. These images are from Mashpee Commons, the ones on the left, which is in Massachusetts, and they show how these elements can work together to create safe and inviting environments. And then in addition to safe and inviting environments, active storefronts, active programming that can also include temporary food trucks or events, performances that all greatly add to the appeal of a place, and especially for pedestrians, promote vitality and make the place for being more walkable. We briefly touched upon the importance of outdoor spaces in the previous slide, But while I don't imagine that there will be any large events in the near future, what I wanted to show here is just how places that are flexible and can accommodate social distancing requirements as well as be available for use throughout the day can serve as great community spaces. And there is an opportunity to create these places in these developments. They can also be used for events like community concerts or as a catalyst for promoting local businesses. These two examples are from Princeton Shopping Center in New Jersey, and you can see how the same community space is being used for a larger event, but also for just seating during the lunch hour for people who are working nearby. Now we come to another really important principle, which is mixed use. And by mixed use, we mean a balanced combination and thoughtful distribution of residential, office, and retail, which can add a lot to the vibrancy of a place, promote a healthier live-work relationship, and also keep a place active by day and night. This example to the left is from Legacy Village, Ohio. This is always cited as an example of a successful mixed-use community that has a combination of 1 to 3 story buildings that are packed in a really, really compact development pattern. And that really provides for the critical mass that one needs to support these uses, both by day and night. And what is great about mixed uses is that they keep an area alive. Again, like I said, during the day and night. These images from Mashpee Commons here show active streets during the daytime and nighttime uses that are not only supported by visitors to this place, but are additionally supported by the residents who live in the area. And then there is this reality that we all live in a cold climate, quite a few months of our year are quite cold. So how does one think about places that can still be usable throughout the year and don't lose their appeal in the cold weather? So thinking about how we do that is really important in this context. And the image on the left is from Princeton Shopping Center. What they've gone ahead and used as an architectural feature is a sheltered and canopied walkways. So this is a sheltered walkway on an indoor corridor, and on the outside, they're canopied. And in things like pop-ups and kiosks and winter uses like ice skating rink that can be temporarily installed over community spaces also keep these areas active during the winter months. The examples in the middle and the right are from Bryant Park. And the Bryant Park does a great job of transforming its park and walkways into an ice skating rink for everyone, and its walkways into, then accommodate both pop-up kiosks as well as pedestrians. Another principle is that I want to talk about is local and national retail. I think that a balanced mix of both local and national retail is always a really good underlying strategy that provides ample choices for a variety of users. And what that is, and it also in turn then ensures the long-term viability and success of a place, especially through different market cycles. And so I think that it's an important placemaking principle when you take the long-term view. What's great, and is shown here in the images of Princeton Shopping Center and Mashpee Commons, is that both the local and national can fit into a similar scale and character. And we don't have to have a national retail, for example, be more overpowering or have an undesirable exterior, as that can be the case sometimes. And this can really be determined by what character and scale the town really wants to promote. We discussed streetscapes and civic spaces briefly in our earlier slides from the point of view of safety and programming. But what I wanted to call out here is the importance of design. And an example I want to cite is from Arlington Town Center. which is just great in terms of how it has made the area so safe, but also very inviting through simple design principles. And some of these principles include transparency on the street, awnings, outdoor spillover spaces for cafes and restaurants. There's thoughtful landscaping, signage, lighting, and just paying attention to the materiality of the sidewalk and the buildings. They've all together played a really important role in how a place feels. And I visited this place earlier in August, and I, really enjoyed being here. I want to briefly touch upon an environment as well, because Duchess Plaza, which is one of the sites that we will be discussing today, was built on a landfill. And it is also almost entirely within a 100-year floodplain. And while there hasn't been any soil testing that proves that there is any real contamination on the site, there still is a perception that the site might be contaminated because it is built on a landfill. So I thought that it would be a good idea to discuss phytoremediation here, because it is, a very widely accepted, cost-effective environmental restoration technology. And what it basically refers to is that we can use certain species of plants and associated soil microbes to reduce the concentration of toxic, the concentrations of metals and other toxic effects of contaminants in the environment. A phytoremediation park can also act as a community space, as a central community space, and it could also double up as a place for greater environmental awareness and education. And so, it's something to consider as a program. Oops, I'm sorry, the slides went ahead a little faster here. So this is also, and as we talk about environment, emissions has been a growing concern in our times. And, there's already a shift towards clean, green, and renewable energy. And it's going to become even more important in the coming days. And I think that it should be at the forefront of any design and development undertaking. So what I wanted to do was show some examples of how just a simple solar panel can act as a canopy, as roofing material, but also be employed on parking lots. I know from talking to the CPRC and Adriana and Bonnie that the town is participating in the Climate Smart Communities program. And one thing to note here is that if electric car ownership goes up in the town, that we can even provide EV charging stations in the parking area, and that would achieve another Climate Smart Communities action points. So that I think would be another significant step for the town in the direction. So with that, I think these are just some placemaking principles that I've discussed. By far, there are many more, but in the interest of time, all of them cannot be covered in one evening. So what I want to transition into is quickly go over the sites and what opportunities they present to us. So this is Duchess Center, and as you can see, all the buildings here are very mid-century style character, and they have been vacant for a while now. There's all this large asphalt lots, parking lots, and that are not in use. Either there's nothing in the vicinity except for the Burger King, which is also a drive-in. And there's really, one of the things that I wanted to point out here is that there's this retro Corten steel signage, which I think is very iconic and should be preserved on the site. When we visited the site, it didn't really seem that these buildings would lend themselves to any type of adaptive reuse. And so I think a strategy for here would be to consider the entire site as a that the redevelopment would be more ground up rather than an infill or a adaptive reuse. I know I'd mentioned briefly that the entire site is in a 100-year floodplain, and that's what is shown here on the left. The blue patch is the 100-year floodplain, and as you can see, there's also Casper Kill right next to the site, which I think is an opportunity that one should consider as one thinks of redevelopment. Another thing to note is that through this little green bikeway and walk and path, there is a connection to the Duchess Trail trailhead. You can see that closer, up more close in this slide. What the black boundaries are showing here are the 5 and 10-minute walking distances from the site. The shape is not circular because we kind of did this in GIS, and it created this based on the topography and also the available places that people could walk to. It's good to note that the Duchess Rail trailhead is within a 10-minute walking distance, which is a huge opportunity. And then the other thing that is also here is an opportunity to connect to the Arlington Town Center through this trail and going under the US 44. In terms of access, vehicular access, the site is accessible on Duchess Turnpike. And you can see it's a really wide route with very little refuge for pedestrians. And there isn't really a traffic light at this access route from here on Duchess Turnpike, but there is a traffic light at Burnett Boulevard, and it is probably a better access into the site. At the back, through Friendly Lane, there is more of a access for service vehicles currently, and the green lines show on the map show bike paths that surround the area. This map is showing the zoning and the context that Duchess Center is situated in. It was the purpose of the zoning that it has is that it's a location that is suited for to the requirements of multi-community or regional planning. But that's not to say that this cannot be modified to better define the purpose that the town thinks is fit at the current time. There are several uses that are permitted. Again, at one point it was more thought as a regional center. So one can, we can again think about whether that is still relevant today or there needs to be some modification to that use. With that, I think what I want to do is ask you to participate in a polling exercise. What's going to happen is that questions will pop up on your screen, and we want to request you to select the best option that represents your feedback. So as the question pops up, I'll read it out and then ask, and you'll probably have 1 or 2 minutes to consider your response, and we will also be able to show everyone at the same time what the majority response has been. So.
Hi, I just want to plug, we're getting a lot of comments that are coming directly to panelists. Please in your chat, make sure that it's being sent to panelists and attendees. There should be a little drop-down menu in your chat option where you can do that. we just want to make sure that this all gets captured and that everybody on this webinar can see what you are contributing, because there's a lot of great ideas floating around. Thanks.
So the first question is, what would be your vision for Duchess Center? In case you want to select the other option, then please feel free to enter and describe what other is in the chat box. And please, again, as Adriana mentioned, please make sure that you're entering your comments for both the panelists and all the attendees.
So I'm seeing about 58% have voted. Oh, 61%. We're at about 71%. All right, so we're at about 1 minute and 45 seconds. And we're at about 75% response rate. So if you guys, if you have any last minute choices, go ahead and make them. We'll end this at about 2 minutes. Does that sound all right, Sachi?
Yes. Thank you.
All right, speak now or forever hold your poll answer. Okay, and share.
Okay, so I guess mixed use center with retail, office, and residential has received the maximum number of responses, with 50% or 16 people saying that that's how it should be redeveloped. And there's also a lot of interest in it being a community gathering space and a environmental learning center. That's very encouraging. And an entertainment complex. I mean, and then there is 9% response on other, but only one response as a destination mall, which amounts to 3%. So I guess that another thing that we'll do is summarize this on Facebook on the town website, so you guys will have access to these results even later. But I think we should move on to the next question. So next question is, what are the top 3 uses you would like to see at Duchess Center?
Okay, we're at 60% response rate.
We're waiting. I just want to mention, I think most people have gotten the idea with the chat function to make sure that you have all panelists and attendees selected in the 2 line. But if you haven't done that yet, please try to make that change, and then we'll all be able to see your ideas. There are a lot of good ideas coming in. Thank you.
Also, I would like to point out that it's perfectly okay to keep using the Q&A option, but for comments, please, it would be great to have them included in the chat function as opposed to the Q&A, just so we can help a dialogue form. Thank you.
All right, so we're at 2 minutes and 77% voting. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll.
Okay. I am gonna just briefly give the results. The 52% of the people think that that residential, single family, and multifamily uses is the top use, followed by civic, community, space, and then that is followed by passive recreation. So those seem to be the top 3 uses. Entertainment, some form of entertainment, and public recreation, and a solar farm. That's great. Are the other next 3, are the following 3 uses. So thank you for that. This is really interesting. Can we go to the third question, please? The third question is, are there any local businesses, artisan fleas, or farmers markets that you would like to see being supported at the Duchess Center?
One of the interesting comments we've gotten on a couple of these is that folks would love the ability to select more than one option. You know, that they see a number of desirable things here. So it's good to hear.
Great. Do feel to select other and enter your feedback in the chat box.
All right, oh, we've got 80% voting. I'm going to go ahead and end it here then for the sake of time. We're about at 2 minutes now. Oh, 85%. This one got a lot of response. We're getting a lot of chats as well, so that's great. All right.
Great. Farmers market is the top use that people would like to see supported here, followed by local eateries, breweries, or similar uses, and that's followed by artisan flea, community makerspace after that, and then I feel like, and then local businesses like hair salons, nails, and spa, and then there's some feedback in the other, which we will share with you once we compile all the comments. We can go to the next question. So yeah, this is a part A of the question, which is how far, and which will be followed by part B. So how far from Duchess Center do you live?
All right, we're at 75%, 77, 80. All right, I'll give this one just a minute. All right, speak now. Ending.
1 to 3 miles. Most people live between 1 to 3 miles, followed by 3 to 5 miles, and then greater than 5 miles. So not a lot of people very close to Duchess Center. Okay, so now you'll see why we asked that question, because the next question, which will just pop up, is what would be your ideal mode of transportation to get to Duchess Center, assuming that the development will be walkable once you get there.
Okay, we're at 87%. I'm gonna go ahead and end polling.
Driving a personal vehicle, clearly the top option, because most people live 3 to 5 or greater miles away from Duchess Center. Not surprising, but I'm really happy to see that a lot of people would like to bike and also walk and run to Duchess Center. And some would also like to use, 9% would like to use public transportation, some type of public transit or bus. So thank you for that. That was really great. I'm going to just do a little bit, take the full screen off of my screen, because so that I can take notes at the same time as we're talking. Oh, sorry, can everyone still see my screen?
You can see you now.
Okay. So what we wanted to do was also just open up the entire forum, sort of to get comments from everyone in terms of what they would like to, what else, they have in their mind in terms of their desires or any opportunities or constraints that they see regarding Duchess Center. And that is something that we cannot cover in a multiple choice question. So what I want to request is that if you would like to speak, please unmute yourself. Please raise your hand, unmute yourself, and then introduce yourself briefly and let us know whatever it is you want to express about Duchess Center.
You'll actually raise your hand and I'll unmute you.
Okay.
So Robert Nasser, I've asked you to unmute, I guess. There we go. Okay, you should be enabled to speak now.
Okay, hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, this is kind of a general question. Name's Bob Nasser. I live in the town. I'm on the planning board. And I probably should know this, but what's the target for the comprehensive plan to be in effect?
I could take that if you want. Hi, Bob. It's Mike Welty.
Thanks.
Hi. Yeah, we are hoping to get the draft pulled together over the course of this fall. And so we would have a complete draft to share with the community by, hopefully before the end of the year. And then we would do some work to wrap that up and get it into the town board's hands early next year for adoption. And there's a process that goes on for adoption as well. So sometime next year, we would have this in place.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anybody else have a thought or a comment on Duchess Center? You can go ahead and raise your hand. Or add a chat.
I see a hand raised. Couple hands.
All right. Doreen, you are unmuted.
Hi, this is Doreen Tignanelli, and as I put in the chat, I really feel strongly about the daylighting of the Casper Kill, and I've included that in my comments for several comprehensive plan meetings now. And I really think that any development at the site, there should be a requirement that the creek be restored as an amenity. So again, you know, it'll provide for environmental education as far as school children can be brought there. And I just think that the town really is lacking in spaces where people can see, you know, how it could be planted to attract wildlife, even if you're in the middle of an urban center. So I just think that that's very important. Thank you.
Thanks, Doreen. Rebecca Edwards.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for focusing on this site, which I think is one that really, really needs to be redeveloped. And one thing is that the elementary school being right there, it would seem like a really ideal situation for young families, where with the bike trail and with already a grocery store and some other a bank, a credit union, all available in walking distance, as well as the elementary school, that perhaps we might consider a development that's not necessarily exclusive for young families, but that particularly tries to create affordable housing for young families and really reduce their costs. Maybe a place where you could live without owning a car. A place that has free Wi-Fi, a place that might have childcare nearby, a childcare center, so that from the time your children are age 1 all the way up through 5th grade, when they leave Arthur S. May, that you would have, you know, places where your kids could stay nearby. Maybe there could be co-working space available for parents who might be able to then find a lot of their needs met very nearby. And I have some interesting, I mean, I'd love to talk further about the ownership of that site too, which is a little bit complicated, but that's another issue for maybe discussing another time. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Oops.
Sharon Phillips. I asked to unmute you, so you're up when you're ready.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I accidentally disabled you. Oh God. Try unmuting yourself again, Sharon. I'm so sorry.
Okay, am I unmuted now?
You are.
Okay. I like to walk on the trail quite a bit, and one of the things I think there's a shortage of is a place to go to the bathroom and buy water. And making sure that something that's so accessible to the trail is a place that encourages people to stop and rest and take care of themselves seems important to me.
Thanks so much, Sharon.
Okay.
Shachi, I'm not sure how long you want to stay on this slide.
If there are no more hands, maybe we can move on to the next site. Let's just give them maybe 5 more seconds. Any more comments?
Okay, we have one more. Scott?
Yes. Hello, how are you?
Whoa.
Good evening. So this is more in the form of a question. A lot of municipal operations around that area, including a town court and a police station in the back of that plaza. I'm wondering, whether or not, this redevelopment would include any municipal operations within that particular area, whether anything's going to be moved.
The municipal operations that are, as you mentioned, to the north or behind the plaza are actually a bit further to the north, so they don't necessarily have to move strictly as for this plaza to be redeveloped. But yeah, there has been discussion at different times about facilities, the facilities needs of the town, and there's actually some additional work the town's been doing on that. If you want to reach out to me in the planning department, I could point you in the direction of those studies if you'd like.
Okay, all good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? I think then we can move on to the next site. Okay, so so this is the next, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
And can everybody see South Hills Mall slide?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Because it says on my screen that my sharing is paused, so just wanted to make sure. So these are images from the South Hills Mall, and there's still a lot of activity. It's still pretty active. There's ShopRite right there. This is showing the massive loading docks behind ShopRite. There's a pet store as well. There have been some vacancies in recent times because Kmart and the movie theater and Burlington have all gone. But even then, when we visited the site, there was definitely a lot of activity. It has its own, architectural character. These covered walkways that are colonnaded, and there's, a great scale to the entire site. I think there's potential over here for infill development. But one would not really, as in the case of Duchess Plaza, Duchess Center, where we were thinking that this might have to be a ground up development. South Hills Mall, given that it is still being used quite a bit, that this might lend itself more to infill development versus being a ground up development. So this map on the left is showing all the streets and the figure ground of South Hills Mall and the buffer zone that surrounds it. Here's an image of that buffer zone, which is in exactly this area. You can also see, because the topography rises as one moves in this direction, so you can see the trees from a distance here, and it's really.
Sachi, excuse me. You're still showing the pictures of the mall, not the area, not the map.
Okay, let me do this again. Is everybody able to see the map that I'm showing? Okay.
Yes, that's better.
Okay, so I'll repeat that. Here on the left is a map that shows, the built form and the surrounded by the parking areas and the accessibility of the site. But the more important thing is also really just this buffer zone. And this buffer zone, which we can see to the right here, this photograph, it's on higher ground. The site is pretty high and dry. It is not within the 100-year floodplain. But what's also interesting is that one can see this buffer zone because South Hills Mall is lower and these trees are a lot higher. You can see through these vistas in the distance the trees, and they're actually really beautiful. It's a beautiful buffer zone. The next slide just talks about access to the site. Again, there is the 5 and 10-minute walking distance. Please do let me know if the slide has not advanced. Has the slide advanced for everyone? Okay, great. So there is the 5 and 10-minute walking distance that's shown here in the black line. The first image is showing access from South Road. And the second image is showing access from West Main Street, which is a little bit calmer as compared to South Road or Route 9, which is, you know, a highway. So, and in the back, this is the service road number 3 right here. The service road that is right next to the buffer zone. It's actually really beautiful, even though most of the backside is taken up by parking lots. But maybe we could do something about how to intersperse parking lots with infill development. And there is access from the shops at South Hills number 4, which is again, you know, a more sort of smaller private street to get a more street-like character versus a highway to get to the site. But really it is accessed from South Road and West Main Street directly. Another thing that I'd like to point out is that there is this connection from the site that one can take West Main Street, which will take you to downtown Wappingers Fall. So if one does not want to get into the highway, that is one connection that can be looked at as a connection that is more walkable, more bikeable, and just more, just safer and not, and not, you know, a large highway. This slide is showing, again, the zoning context and the surrounds. The purpose of South Hills Center was really to promote a mix of businesses and commercial, have pedestrian activity, but within the center itself, and some connection to, wherever possible, connection to the adjacent areas. I would like to point out that direct connection to adjacent areas through the buffer zone is not actually possible because of the topography, but what is possible is to take that connection that I had pointed on the previous slide right here, is to get onto West Main Street to access downtown Wappingers Falls. And then, you know, within the area itself, there was a purpose to create both an interconnected system for both pedestrians and vehicles and minimize the visual impact of automobiles with landscaping from the parking areas. So for that brief overview of the site, which I neglected to point this earlier, but I should say that there is multifamily residential in the north. It is not directly adjacent to the site that we're looking at, but there is single family residential to the west of the site. But again, it is topographically on higher ground. And across from the street, there is more commercial use. So what we're gonna do now is get into questions and answers like we did with Duchess Center. So questions will pop up on your screen. Please select the option that best represents your feedback. And if you select the other option, please do enter your feedback in the chat box and make sure that you have all panelists and attendees selected. First question is, what is your vision for South Hills Mall?
Okay, we're at 1 minute and 68% voting. We've been able to get up to about 80%, so I would think that that would be our goal.
Remember, if you hit other, that you can let us know in the chat what other ideas you have. That would be great. Thanks.
Okay, we're at about 70%. I'm not seeing the number get any higher. We have about 10 seconds till 2 minutes. I'm going to close the poll in 3 seconds. And done.
Okay, let's see what everyone has to say. So a mixed-use center with retail, offices, and residential is the top choice as what they envision for South Hills Mall. That's followed by a community gathering space. Of course, both can be included together. That is followed by 13% voting for destination mall. And then that's followed by a Continuum Care Senior Living. And then there's one response for it to be an entertainment complex, one that it should include neighborhood retail, and one other response. And once we will summarize all of this on Facebook and on the town website. Thank you. The next question is, what are the top 3 uses that you would like to see at South Hills Mall?
We're at 1 minute and 62% voting.
While we're waiting, I'm just going to put another reminder out there for those using the chat to please make sure that the setting is to all panelists and attendees, so that we can so that everyone can see your comments or your questions. Thanks.
We're getting a lot of feedback on the chat.
Yeah, very busy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're at 79% and almost 2 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and close the polling in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so what we've heard so far is that the top 2 uses are residential, single family, multifamily, and commercial. Oh, sorry, actually, I take my words back. The top use is actually entertainment, and that's followed by residential and commercial uses, which is followed by passive recreation, civic or community space, and that is followed by public recreation center, a solar farm. So there's a phytoremediation park and environmental education. Thank you all for those responses. We will rank them and use that as feedback as we think about what to do here. Let's go to the next question, please. Are there any local businesses, artists, and flea markets that you would like to see being supported at South Hills Mall? And if so, what would they be? Oh, wow. I love that. A carbon sink. Someone just said a carbon sink.
Mhm. There was also a question about whether phytoremediation could be part of a whole, like a larger use. And I think the answer to that is, of course.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, we're at 73% voting, and a minute and 15 seconds have passed. We're getting there. So I'm gonna, just for the sake of time, since we have 73%, if there's nobody else, go ahead and cast your votes. I'll give you 5 seconds. All right, ending polling there.
Okay, so the top 2 uses is that it should be a community makerspace. That's very interesting, and have local eateries, breweries, or similar uses.
Ooh, very, very hip.
Yeah. And that's followed by farmers market. Well, who doesn't want good produce, right? Good, fresh, healthy produce. Artist and flea is next, and local businesses like hair salons. I think there's still there are a few spas when I visited, and then one other which we will again find from the chat box and share with you. Next question, please. Oops, I don't know why this keeps shifting. How far from South Malls do you live?
All right, that went fast. We're at 78% already. 80%. I guess that was an easy question. I'm going to go ahead and end polling.
So most people live either 3 to 5 miles away from the mall, or greater than 5 miles. And about 20% live within 1 to 3 miles, but nobody lives as close as 1 mile. Well, I wouldn't have imagined that, because we saw the context in the zoning. So that's probably already a 1 mile radius. Let's see how you might want to get to the mall. What would you like to use? What would be your preferred mode of transportation? Ideal mode of transportation, actually. Assuming, of course, that the mall, that the redevelopment would be walkable once you get there.
All right.
Private vehicle, of course, I'm not surprised by that. But there is a good 20% who would like to use public transportation, or a bus or a shuttle or some new form of public transportation. And there's 17% who think that biking can be an option. That's very encouraging, and we'll explore that a little bit more. So after this, I think it's time for us to also open it up for discussion. Is everybody able to see the aerial image of South Hills Mall? I'm going to rely on you, Adriana, to tell me.
Yes, we can see it.
Great. So please let me know if you can still see it.
Nope.
Okay, that's what's happening when, okay. Is this okay?
Yep, see it now.
All right, thank you. As you did in Duchess Plaza, this is open for a discussion and for comments. So please raise your hand in the, raise your hand and Adriana will unmute you. Please do introduce yourself and let us know what you would like to share with us and if you have a question.
Okay, Nancy? Nancy, you're permitted to speak if you want to unmute yourself. Okay. I tried to unmute Nancy Kapler Foster, but she did not. She doesn't seem to be unmuting herself. Sharon Phillips?
Hi, this is Sharon Phillips. I see people biking down the median along Route 9, trying to get north and south and go to the mall. And I really wish that our concept and development was connecting communities so that we're not like Wappingers and Duchess and Spackenkill, that this is a smooth process where we move easily by bike or by walking to different communities.
Right. Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you for that.
Any other comments you want to make? Echoing Sharon's comments, there's a couple of chats going on related to the malls being isolated, even though there are neighborhoods surrounding them, and making them a little more linked to those development areas, or including residential on the site would help to integrate the site more. But Mr. Whitehead has noted that a proposed walking path to the neighborhoods behind the south of the mall has been opposed by neighbors years ago, but you never know what's changed since then. Any other hands raised? I'm not seeing any on my panel.
You know, I did see at least one comment in the chat earlier when we were talking about how people like to get to this location. That is, I think, a good reminder. Karen said that I do not drive, I take the bus. And there are quite a number of people, you know, who can't drive, or in addition to those that choose not to. So it's a good reminder that the public transportation is still very critical for a lot of folks. I'm not seeing any more hands. Are you, Adriana?
I'm not seeing hands. Oh, here we go. Euro?
Yes, hi. I sometimes bike to the mall from the Spackenkill Road area. And one time I did it down Route 9, and that was a scary thought. Usually I go through the neighborhoods that are to the west of Route 9 to get down to it. But I've also seen people biking or walking down the median in the middle of Route 9, and there aren't even any, there's not even any space on the side of the road past the lines, because they squeezed in 3 lanes, I think, in each direction there. And so having something where you could travel north and south, I mean, I think that might be beyond the town's responsibility, but that's definitely lacking there, especially, I don't know if traffic is as heavy as it used to be back in the 80s or 90s when they first fully developed it, but now they might consider taking away one of the lanes and making it into a walking or biking path, since you could easily get by with 2 lanes in each direction there instead of 3.
Mhm. Yeah, and even though Route 9 is a state road, as Mr. Bill Carlos had mentioned earlier on in his introduction, including these comments and including these types of recommendations in the comprehensive plan shows New York State DOT or the county that it is the intent of the town to take on these types of projects.
Yeah, I agree. I think that while we may not want to focus our attention on developing concepts for Route 9 and focus our attention on seeing how some of the placemaking principles can actually be illustrated on the site itself, including these as recommendations for the longer term, and conversations with the state DOT would be certainly a great idea, not just on this site, especially on this site, but also on Duchess Center site.
I also want to note that Ann Shershin sent a message, but it happened to be only to panelists, but I just want to relay it. There was a plan to have an overpass over Route 9 connecting the senior apartment directly across from South Hills. This was welcomed by the residents, but maybe it was never approved by the state. So, large groups speak volumes. So Sharon Phillips again, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I had another comment just regarding walking to the mall, which is the traffic lights are not really adequate to walk across the street. I was recovering from an injury and I had a difficult time making it across Route 9. And I can point you to blogs where people, rant and rave about how difficult it is to ride a bike through the intersections in front of South Hills Mall.
If I might, just for a minute, when I opened this up and I told you how important the plan will be, the comprehensive plan, if, for example, for sidewalks along Route 9, the plan says something like, for future consideration, we should have sidewalks along the length of Route 9. So now there comes a point in time where New York State DOT has to come to the town and do something different with Route 9. In our comprehensive plan, which they must pay attention to, we as a community, all of us, are indicating to them, this is what we want. That would also include, for example, if we were talking about Spackenkill Road or Vassar Road, Spackenkill being the state road, Vassar Road is a county road, Spackenkill is a state road. So the importance of the comprehensive plan, and the reason I want you to all say what you want to say, is it has to be paid attention to over the next 10 plus years. Thank you. Keep going. This is very good.
Any other hands? I'm not seeing any, but we welcome your conversation. Well, Sachi, I'll take your cue if you want me to put up that last poll, or if we want to.
I think maybe let's just give it 5 more seconds. I was just reading all the great comments on this.
Yeah.
If somebody hasn't mentioned anything that they'd like to say, there will be an opportunity after this as well, if you think of it later, but it's always good to, discuss it now. Any more comments?
And there's no right or wrong.
Right.
You know, we just want to hear what you have to say about, you know, the center, what you think about the concepts, you know, its relationship to other areas in the town, just thoughts you may have. And again, feel free to, you know, offer your comments, because that's what this is all about, hearing from you, as the chairman has said.
Okay. If there are any more hands up, I think we should go to the last polling question.
Okay.
So this is not really site specific, but it's a general question regarding all of the mixed use areas and town centers, that if they were to redevelop, what would you like Poughkeepsie to be known for as a town? And that, I think, can then start to also inform what happens not just at Duchess Center and South Hills Mall, but, you know, how can a piece of this be illustrated in the development of all the town centers?
And also, if I realize that this is a choose only one, and that's hard to choose, so please add your additional feelings in the chat function. We definitely want to hear if you have multiple interests in the town. Of course, we are multifaceted people. All of the above.
It is kind of hard to choose, but
There is. They're all good choices.
yeah.
We're at about 79%. Yeah, to Mr. Brenner's point, I also wish that we could rank them using the poll function, but Zoom is a bit limited, but ranking would be awesome for this question.
It's still not as much fun as doing these things in person, but people are doing a great job giving us feedback this way. Really appreciate everyone's efforts.
Yes, I have to say this is really, really useful, and we'll make every effort to illustrate all the desires and somehow incorporate it in the comprehensive plan.
All right, so we're at about 83%, and somebody does have their hand raised. So, Chachi, would you like to invite some conversation? I can end the poll and we can share.
Yes. Okay, so I think the top, the most important thing that the maximum responses were for promoting walkability, mixed use, and transit-oriented development. That is great. Great principles. And that is followed by, I would say, ethnic and economic diversity. That is also a great goal to have. And then that's followed by affordable lifestyle and a place that demonstrates building sustainably and reducing carbon emissions. Very, very progressive and forward-looking goals. There are also some responses for it being a passive recreation destination for biking, walking, and town's amenities. And some people have also selected that it could be a historic tourism destination. and then an ecotourism destination, and then there's one other feedback in other under other, and we'll summarize it for you in on Facebook and the town's website. So I think we can open it up for just general comments as well, and then we'll probably go over next steps after maybe 15 minutes of general comments that anyone wants to share with us. Again, the same process, please raise your hand and you'll be unmuted. Please introduce yourself and share anything.
Okay, so I've unmuted Nancy again, but I think you have to unmute yourself as well.
I was just thinking that there are some elements that need to be taken into consideration, since the connection between the South Hills Mall and the Galleria is something that we have to accept the way it is now. However, large malls are going to change their approach to how they use that space, given some changes we're experiencing during this pandemic. And so has that been taken into consideration?
That's a really good point. And we're still at the stage where we are gathering feedback. But I think that as I had mentioned before, the importance of outdoor spaces in some of the placemaking principles, I think that we will definitely make an effort to think about how outdoor spaces can then become inform, sort of this new social distancing trend and a future that could emerge from this.
And I will say that this comprehensive plan is becoming very much focused on the concepts of infill development in general. So even though we're only focusing on 2 specific sites right now, I would venture to say that infill, encouraging infill in the town of Poughkeepsie will become a driving kind of goal of the plan itself, independent of these, just these 2 parcels. These are more, we've call them kind of precedents or example studies that could potentially apply best practices across the town.
Right, and this, just to add to that, Adriana, I think absolutely, we've talked about a number of different locations, commercial and some former industrial sites around the town that, may be opportunities for redevelopment in the future. And so again, these 2 locations are just illustrative. Certainly there are places that people are familiar with and seem to be recognized as opportunities because they're not maybe the most thriving places in the town, but absolutely these principles can be applied elsewhere, and that's where we're gonna, I think, focus a lot of our attention in the plan, as was said by Adriana. Another hand up.
I apologize, I got distracted here. Okay. Yeah. Oh.
Hi, did I get unmuted?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, this is Ann Shershin here. I thought the point about the malls changing is really well taken, because it started happening even before the pandemic. Retail is dying out. Our kids are not shopping like they used to. A lot more is being done online and being delivered, and it's really a different world out there. So we really need to be looking at these malls and shopping centers as something that needs to be transformed into maybe an entertainment center or other uses, and not just heavy retail. And that we have to be very careful in the future too about how much retail we're including in all these developments, that it's something that will fit in and be usable, but not overwhelm and end up basically building a lot of empty space that can't be used. So we really need to take a look at this. And also I think it's really smart that we're looking at areas to redo and reuse, rather than looking at tearing down green space just to build something new in it.
Thanks, Dan. Anyone else would like to have any comments on this subject? Again, you can raise your hand and Adriana can unmute you.
I apologize. I was muted. I just unmuted Scott Brenner.
Hi, hello again. With respect to the South Hills Mall and being right next to the Galleria, you know, I love the idea of turning it into some sort of an entertainment center, maybe even an indoor sports center where families can come, kids can come during the winter, have, you know, lots to do indoors. Growing up in Crown Heights, right nearby, we had the IBM Country Club, which is no longer available. So having a place where kids can go after school, families can go, you know, engage in sports, you know, basketball, swimming, you know, whatever. You know, almost like the Chelsea Piers kind of concept down in New York City would be fantastic. And I think it would add to the, you know, the variety of the types of places to go in the area instead of, you know, everything being focused on shopping, which, as Ann said, is kind of on the wane. I would love to see the town focus on things that make it unique and stand out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We had a hand raised and now we don't. Ah. Euro, you're up again?
I remember when Gallery was being built, there was a road that went to the neighborhood that's to the west of South Hills Mall, but they didn't want the traffic going through, I believe. Is that a road, a passageway, whether pedestrian or a road, that's a possible access to the mall in the future?
Could you point to that road? You see my...
Yeah, I believe it was between the two malls. There was a road that they cut it short.
Oh, the one that's ending right here, you think?
Maybe, yeah. I just remember that they didn't want the traffic going through there, and so they disconnected that road. But is that a possible access in the future as we decrease the volume, or with limited access through pedestrian or bicycle?
Right, and I heard someone say earlier that there was at some point a proposal to connect the surrounding communities a bit better, but that the communities were opposed to the idea of the traffic going through them. But again,
that's understandable.
Yeah, that's understandable. But again, I don't know when, how long ago that opinion was held and how it has changed here today in 2020. So I think all of you are here today. What do you think?
There's a bit of a conversation going on in the chat. Cotton Hill Road was closed off. It went through about where Lowe's is now. So that would be kind of where you were pointing, right?
This area?
Yeah, so that is the Lowe's right there.
What's the name of the road, please?
Cotton Hill.
Cotton Hill?
Cottam.
Yeah, we have it in the chat too, Sachi. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's interesting to think about how, you know, the town of Poughkeepsie, it's a big town. It's very diverse in terms of the ages and the types of people are actually moving here. We found from the survey, young families are moving here. So neighborhood opposition 15, 20, 30 years ago may shift as the wants and needs of the community shift. Of course, the history is definitely important, and it's important to keep in mind.
I think that since everybody here recognizes that the nature of retail and traditional retail is just fast changing, and that this site is being viewed more as a mixed use center and not necessarily a destination mall, at least South Hills, from what we've heard so far, that might not be, it might lend itself to be a bit better integrated with the R1 single family homes next to it, versus when it was, big boxy. And we've seen that a number of those anchor tenants are no longer in South Hills Mall.
Jim Pinto has his hand up, and I've unmuted him.
Hi, everybody. Great ideas. I like the community sports and entertainment function, similar what Chelsea Piers does in Stamford area, and I think that possibly mixed with an office component, and I'm talking about basically renting office space for small meetings, or renting office space for hourly office use and office services. Combining those two things is going to be the way of the future in smaller quantities, but it does give what I have always termed, in my experience, a reason to come. And that's in essence, I think, where all of these suggestions are going, giving people a new reason to come beyond the retail component that is in fact waning, as was mentioned by someone else.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay. You're welcome.
I'm seeing some comments in the comment box about community theater space or spaces for emerging artists, like coffee houses. We have a couple people in agreement with that. And yeah, Mr. Brenner also notes that the idea of giving people a place to come is also responsive to the changing demographics and the exodus that we are seeing in the area from New York City. Are there any other thoughts or comments that anybody would like to share? I'm not seeing any hands raised. Okay, Linda, you're unmuted. Linda Mack, you have to unmute yourself. It's not letting me unmute you.
Okay.
There
Now,
you
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, this isn't related to these two specific larger projects, but it's a general question about your role in the town of Poughkeepsie's vision. Can I ask a question about that? Okay, well, I appreciate what you are trying to do. You seem to be environmentally conscious and about safety, accessibility, visual impacts, and all of that. And actually, I only live about a mile from the Dutchess County Rail Trail, so I'm glad you're thinking about all of these things. And I don't know how much impact you have with the town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board, but right down the street from me, they're are you aware that no gas station should be built within 500 feet of a residential area? I don't know if you have delved into that or are aware of it.
Well, there are planning board members here today.
Okay.
They're
So, yeah, so I'm sure they're aware, but I don't know if all the members of your committee are aware.
Yeah, we're aware of upcoming development proposals.
Right, yeah, there's one on South Road and there's one right on the end of Overrocker and Route 44. And the prior administration under Todd Tancredi and Neil Wilson, he was just like an acting planning board. Well, they basically were trying to jam through that gas station. And then, of course, because we sued them, the town of Poughkeepsie, and then they had a, by the time it all went through the courts, and the courts basically said, your local town of Poughkeepsie government is supposed to take care of you and address their zoning board, but rules and whatever. And of course, they have ignored them and tried to jam this through. So now it's basically the developer has to start from scratch. And it seems like there's a new town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board. I have spoken to Mr. Baisley in the past, and he expressed concern about this whole project anyway, but he was just the assistant supervisor. Now he's a supervisor, and I don't know how much say he has in it, but he said, we do have a new town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board committee, and I am very happy about that. And I'm assuming and hoping they are going to do the right thing this time. And I was wondering, because no gas station should be built within 500 feet of a residential area, if the town of Poughkeepsie, with your help, would consider a moratorium on that, because what they're trying to do is put this gas station / building 25 feet right next to a residential home. And I can imagine any of you would not want that. And again, because of safety, we have Eastdale up the street, and because things have changed so much since this originally went through and got approved. Even before the zoning board meetings, I realized afterwards I was pretty naive, but it became evident that they had already made their decision, but they went through the motions. And now you have Eastdale, you have Arlington Farms, you have so much development, so the things have changed as far as traffic and safety and environmental concerns. You already have a huge gas station right across the street. And I don't think you can have two gas stations within 2,500 feet of each other. So they're going to try to ignore that too. But the most important thing is that there are 25 homes within 500 feet of this proposed gas station. And that just violates any environmental, ethical, safety thoughts or rules. And so I was wondering, do you have any say in convincing them? Because your committee seems to be very thoughtful, and I appreciate that, and concerned about the town of Poughkeepsie residents. And I'm hoping that maybe you could sway them to have a moratorium and in fact not allow this second gas station to be built next to all these homes, plus right across the street from another huge gas station. I mean, that is not thoughtful planning and safe planning, and the traffic will be horrendous. We have vapors with gas, and it's just, there's a lot going on that should not be done. We have, I don't know how many children in this neighborhood, and it's just the whole project is not right. And would you be able to help us in this regard? Because again, I appreciate what you have presented with your concerns, and I'm hoping that you could help us out, because I'm hoping the town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board will now rethink this, but I really, quite frankly, don't know if they're gonna still jam through 8 variances and a special use permit to jam a 2-acre project into a 0.8 acre lot.
Right. Can I, Linda, hi, this is Mike Welty from the Town Planning Department. I just want to thank you for your comments. So just, again, good comments. We appreciate getting them. That this isn't exactly the right venue for them. The Comprehensive Plan Committee is really looking out 5-10 years into the future. And making recommendations about the entirety of the town. I do encourage you to continue to make your concerns known, though, to the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals, where both of those applications are currently being looked at.
And we have, but we
right, but that's the only place. That's really where those concerns need to be. Right
well,
now.
I would hope these people though would help future residents and the current ones.
Yep.
To do the right thing. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Are there any other comments?
We have one more, Doreen.
Hi. As far as what the previous speaker said, we just need to make sure that whatever is in the comprehensive plan, that the zoning is updated to match the plan, because we've had instances over the years where the comprehensive plan has made some suggestions, but the zoning was never changed to match the comprehensive plan. And therefore, it was said that nothing could be done about those parcels. So it's how important it is for the comprehensive plan to match up with the future zoning. And then, of course, you are at the mercy of the zoning board when people ask for variances. But as Mike said, that's another story. But again, it is important for the zoning code to be updated to match the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a great point. Thank you.
I don't see any other hands, Sachi.
We might want to give people, some ideas about how they can continue to provide us some feedback even after tonight, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
If there are no more hands, we can move on to the next slide. I think I would have to do that little thing again where I unshare my screen and reshare it, because it won't unfortunately advance for you if I don't do that. So please give me a moment. Okay.
We can see that.
Great. Can you see now?
Nothing has happened.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's being a little bit challenging today.
It's not a webinar if there aren't technical difficulties.
Huh?
It's not a webinar if there are not technical difficulties.
Of course, of course. One more second, please. We're almost there.
Making good time.
Yes.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, are we on to the next page now?
Yes, next steps.
Okay, next steps, great. Okay, I don't think I'll be able to do this on a full screen, so please excuse this because it keeps telling me that my screen is not being shared with you. But anyhow, this screen is shared with you. So the next steps is going to be that we're going to summarize the results. We're going to summarize the comments and all the polling results and post it on the town website and CPRC Facebook page. Please bear with us for a few days as we update that. And then what we've gone ahead and done is created a survey where you will be able to add, sort of your more descriptive comments regarding the two sites. And that is going to also, there's going to be a link that will be posted on the town website and the CPRC page for 1 week. So you have another week to think again about, any feedback that you might want to give us. And then we're going to take this and start to develop some concepts and visuals to communicate whatever finding we had from this outreach, and how the sites can illustrate the placemaking principles and all of the desires that were expressed today. The CPRC is going to continue to keep meeting, so please do check the website for any upcoming agendas or meeting notes and meetings. And then stay tuned, as Mike mentioned earlier, a draft comprehensive plan is something that we would like to get done by the end of this year. And then early next year, there will be opportunity to then begin the process of adoption, which is again going to be, a process where you will have the opportunity to give feedback. Did my slide advance to the next page or not yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Oh,
so,
it just disappeared.
Do you see? Perfect. So thank you all for your time today. Here are some important links that I wanted to leave you with. Again, this presentation and all the feedback that we received today will be posted on the CPRC website. I believe a recording of this will also be posted on YouTube. Is that correct, Adriana?
Yes, it is.
Yes. But here are some links that are important. the CPRC website, email if you would like to get in touch with us. I believe that the 2007 plan link and the existing condition chapters are already uploaded on the website, so you can get there quickly. These are the survey links that I was talking about. They will be live in a couple days, and you can go here and they'll be up for a week and provide more feedback. So that's it for today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sachi, and thank you, Adriana, and Bonnie, and everyone who participated tonight. Bill, did you want to say any
Just
parting
in
words?
closing, if I could.
Yep.
This is an ongoing process. Please do not stop commenting. Keep having your say. I said it at the beginning. You live here, your businesses are here. You got a chance here to tell the town what you want to see the town do. And I know the people that are working on it, these comments will be all brought into the comprehensive plan, and it'll be submitted to the town board. And better than that, once it's passed, anybody that comes into the town to do anything from another agency has to take our plan into consideration. So your time has not been wasted. I want to thank everybody for the comments. Wish everybody a safe night. Good night.